Alright, we're going to start a series of demo videos on SVG. SVG is an XML dialect and it stands for Scalar Vector Graphics. I talked in class about the difference between raster pixel-based graphics and vector graphics, which are really based on mathematics. And the biggest difference is that the vector graphics are infinitely scalable. And so one of the things we'll want to do for this module is develop an SVG logo that you can use in your web development. Now we're going to focus on including SVG elements within HTML5 documents, but SVG is a standalone XML dialect. You can create XML documents that have SVG. And one of the advantages of SVG is you can manipulate the elements with all the same tools that you can with XML. So for instance, we can use XSLT transforms to create SVG output. Later on, we're going to get into the JavaScript, but initially we'll just do the straight declarative markup with the XML elements for the SVG. Okay, so we're in Dreamweaver. I've created a simple template file that I'm going to use for my SVG programs. It's got pretty much the same structure we've used all along with the header section style, the section style of HTML5. So it has a header, a main, a footer. In the header I have a link to a style sheet called main CSS. There's really not too much there. I'm really just putting a background color on the screen and the font properties for the display title. Within my main section I have an SVG node or element, and what you need to know about this is you have to specify the width and the height, and just like before with the canvas graphics that we drew with JavaScript, you can specify that in pixels like I've done here. You can also specify it as percentages. So if you look at the W3 Schools examples of SVG, this is 100%. Here I've used the 800px to kind of make it similar to what I did in the HTML canvas programming. In addition to the width and the height, you have the version, which is always 1.1, and the XML namespace, which is right here. Now understand that this, except for changing the width and the height, is boilerplate. So you're going to always use that, and that's why I put it in the template. And then we have the closing tag for the SVG node, and then all the SVG elements are going to go in here. I've got the first element here, and you can see it's a line primitive, and we specify the x1 and the y1 starting point and the x2 and the y2 endpoints. And then we have a style attribute, and it's kind of strange because you can create a single style attribute that has all these things in it, or you can use individual attributes for them, and you'll see that as I go through. I'll introduce a few of those. So here the style is pretty straightforward. It makes a lot of sense from what we just did with the JavaScript canvas programming. So this is going to define the stroke. I'm using the RGB function that we know from CSS, and that's going to set the red, blue, and green to 99. That'll give me the color that the figure will be drawn in, and then the stroke width is 2 pixels wide. Now because this is a line, there's no fill color, it won't be filled. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll take a quick look at this, and you can see then that it's drawing a line from the 2 points that I've specified, and the color is this 99, 99, 99, and also you can see that the width is 2. Real quickly, just to show you how this works, let's make the width 10 and save the file. Whoops, I wish Dreamweaver had our right-click save. It doesn't. Probably I could just Control S. I should just get in the habit of doing that. And you can see when I reload this, I get the wider line. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm guessing it has the end cap stuff. I'll have to look into that here. So let me go ahead and I'm just going to go through some of these primitives because it's pretty simple. And so I'm just going to do them one at a time. I've got the code already written here in a temporary file, and I'll just paste it in and then show you, and we'll go one at a time here. So the next one is the polyline. Now this is a series of points, and it joins one point to the other, and this is an open figure. Now one thing that I'm noticing about this is, although it's an open figure, it does seem to be trying to fill it, which I cannot figure out. So this combination of points should make a sort of stair-step thing. You can see that I've set the stroke to be in red and the stroke width is 2. And watch what happens now. I'll save this again. Whoops, Control S. And then we'll pop over here, refresh the browser. Yeah, and so one of the things that's a little weird is the actual line goes like this, and it is being filled, and I'm not sure why. And that seems to be a bug, because when I look at this in Chrome, it gets rendered exactly the same way. Now, again, what's funny about that is, first of all, you shouldn't be able to fill a segment, line segment, an open path. Secondly, there's no information here about the fill style. So I could go ahead and add that in. Fill white. And let's see, I always get confused here with this syntax. Yeah, I need a semicolon in there. Alright. And now let's watch again and see what happens. I just hit Control S to save. And now we'll have to reload. You can see, and now you can see where the line is and where the fill is put in. So now I'm telling it to fill, and it's using white, but it shouldn't fill when I don't specify any fill. And what it's actually using is the default fill, which is black. So that's a little weird. Later on I'll show you a path command that lets you draw line segments too. So I'm not really sure about this part. That's the only one thing so far that's been, oh, pardon me, kind of freaky. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue with these primitives. The next primitive is a circle. And so again, we'll just go ahead and add this. And the reason I'm doing this is I kind of played with the points so you could see them all, and they wouldn't lay over one another. Now, if you look at the circle, it has the X and Y and CX and CY. That's the center. So that's the point of the center. Then you specify the radius, which here is 40. Here we're using, instead of style, the individual elements. So stroke equals black, stroke width equals 2, fill equals red. Okay? So we should get a red circle with a black border, right? Okay? Control S, going back here, reload the browser, and there's the red circle. And you can see that now that I've spread this line out a lot thicker, it's actually, they're touching one another, whereas before I had it kind of worked out so they wouldn't. In a later video, I'll show you there's a way to change the opacity of these, just like we saw with the canvas programming. Okay, our next one is the rectangle. And this works just like we've got used to with the HTML5 canvas. You specify the X and Y of the upper left corner, and then you specify the width and the height in pixels. Again, notice the combined style here, so fill colon space, and you can see that this RGB is no red, no green, and all blue. So that's the equivalent of blue. Again, we have a stroke width of 2, and this time our stroke is going to be in black. So we should get a blue rectangle with a black border, and the border will be the same size as the other ones we're using here, which is 2. So let's go ahead and refresh this. And it looks like I forgot to save it. Control S. And here we go. There we go. So there's our blue rectangle. Okay, so again we have line, circle, rectangle, and then this is called, I just forgot, polyline. Okay. All right, let's do the next one. That's going to be the ellipse. Having some trouble finding my mouse here. I got it. Oops. Well, there we go. All right, so let me copy the ellipse code. Pop that in here. Make some white space so we can see it real well. Okay, so ellipse, an ellipse is basically drawn when it has two center points, and so you can see that, it has two radii. So you can see that we have a center X and a center Y. Then we have radius X 100, radius Y 80. And then again we have a combined style, and so you can see we're using the RGB function here for the fill, and again for the stroke, and then the stroke width again is 2. Okay, so again basically it has two radiuses, one on the X and one on the Y axes. Okay, alright, whoops, looks like I forgot to save it yet again. I think I'd learn, huh? And there's our ellipse. Okay, real quickly, let me just play with that a little bit. So let's make the let's see, how does that work? All right, that's the center point. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to make it wider on the X. I'll just make this 150, and I'll save this. Now this is kind of cool because here's the original one, and now when I reload, there's the new one where I increased it. So that kind of helps you to see how the figures help to render this. Okay, I think we only have one left. Yep, and this is polygon. And just like the polyline, polygon takes a array of points. And in this case, though, it's like a closed path on the canvas, so it's going to join the last point to the first point. And so here it makes sense to be able to fill it. It really doesn't make sense to be able to fill the polyline. And the fact that it's filling it when we don't want it to is kind of weird. Okay. So let's see. Okay, Control S. Let's go ahead. Refresh, reload, and there I have a triangle. Now real quickly, let's go back over the code. The reason it's a triangle is I have 1, 2, 3 points, right? So we draw the first line from the first point to the second, from the second to the third, and then because we're using polygon, it draws from the third to the first. Now let me just show you, I can change this real quickly to polyline. And we should now have a V-shaped thing, but again, I'm filling it here explicitly, and it seems like a bug because you can't turn the fill off. So what will really happen is this bottom. Well, I'm not sure which point is first, but one of the So we specified this point to this point to this point, and now you can see that the polyline doesn't supply the closing point of the figure, but it is still filled, which again seems like a bug. Let's just take the fill out and see if there's something else going on here, but I don't think it'll matter. What'll happen is it'll just fill it with black, which is the default fill color. That's what we've seen so far. Alright, there's the mouse, there it is. Alright, so we'll reload, and oh, I must use the last fill color then. So that's kind of weird. Yeah, so I'm not really sure. It seems like this what you use this for, it's sort of hard to control it then. Like really what I'd want to get is just a plain line. And I know I can do that with path too, so I'm kind of confused about what this polyline is supposed to do. Okay, I think that's enough for our first video. We went through the basic figures. I'll show you some more stuff here in the subsequent videos.